Immortals Fenyx Rising is an upcoming Ubisoft title that takes great inspiration from Breath of the Wild, has some Assassin's Creed elements in it, but overall is actually its own game that feels distinct enough. And I actually play the game, and if you watch that video, you'll know that I came away with generally very positive impressions of the title. I think it has great potential as an open-world action-adventure game that encourages exploration with really solid combat. The one thing that struck me, though, was the title change from Gods and Monsters to Immortals Fenyx Rising. Whereas the latter kind of feels very bland and generic, the former was catchy and punchy, easy to remember. I thought it was generally just a much better title, so it just kind of struck me that they changed the name from Gods and Monsters to Immortals Fenyx Rising. The claim from the developers was that because the game took a different direction during development at some point, the title change came with that. But now information has come to light that has revealed that the real reason for the title change might actually have to do with legal issues, a legal conflict with Monster Energy, as relayed here by news outlet TechRaptor in an article titled "Gods and Monsters Trademark Fight with Monster Energy Caused Name Change." So this is what the news outlet reports. When Ubisoft filed the Gods and Monsters trademark, it was opposed by Monster Energy, who claimed it could cause confusion with almost all of their trademarks, including Monster Army, Monster Energy Drink, and more. They state they believe their trademark would be damaged by Gods and Monsters, stating in one part, quote, "Opposer will be damaged by registration of the application in the applicant's mark, so resembles Opposer's monster marks, including as registered in the PTO, Patent and Trademark Office, and in which Opposer owns common law trademark rights as to be likely when used on or in connection with applicant's goods and services as to cause confusion or to cause mistake or to deceive." So basically, because the word monster is in Gods and Monsters, Monster Energy is claiming people will be confused. When they look at Gods and Monsters, how will they be able to tell apart the difference between Monster Energy, the energy drink, and Gods and Monsters, the video game? The humanity. The article then adds that Ubisoft opposed this by and large denying every allegation Monster Energy made. Monster Energy claimed that its marks were famous, to which Ubisoft said, Ubisoft denies Opposer's alleged marks are famous. A bit of a burn right there. But more importantly, Ubisoft points out that there are many trademarks containing the word monster in a variety of categories, both internationally and federally. Indeed, just go to Metacritic and type in the word monster, and as far as games go, you'll find, Monster Hunter, Pixel Junk Monsters, you name it. There are plenty of games with the word monster in there, and in fact, Monster Hunter has the word monster in singular form, whereas Gods and Monsters has the plural form, and Monster Energy uses the singular form. So why haven't they gone after Monster Hunter, And if you look at the list of movies with the word monster, that list is probably even bigger. Monster, A Monster Calls, Money Monster, Monsters Inc. I mean, come on. The word monster is so common in these mediums that to claim ownership over the word and to claim that, the word monster will cause confusion between different mediums and products, energy drinks versus video games and films, the notion that the word monster cannot be used in a title without causing confusion in relation to the energy drink, it's a frankly ridiculous, dumb claim. I mean, did they actually think that when people look at Gods and Monsters, the video game, they would immediately associate that game with Monster Energy Drink, and that we'd have trouble distinguishing between one and the other, that they'd miss out on Monster Energy drink sales because people bought Gods and Monsters, the video game, instead? The logic here is astoundingly poor. TechRaptor then adds that the case between Ubisoft and Monster Energy was moving along until this summer they extended the case to engage in settlement talks twice, putting over the court dates to a future time. At this time, we don't know if they settled, however, it appears likely that they did, and that changing Gods and Monsters to Immortals Fenyx Rising was part of that settlement. Beyond TechRaptor, Eurogamer also covered this and provided specific dates for the timeline timeline of this whole situation, noting that Ubisoft's June 2019 trademark for Gods and Monsters was hit by an opposition filing in April of 2020 from the energy drink company. The following month, on May of 2020, Ubisoft responded to the opposition, and then a month after that, in June, Eurogamer published an article noting that the developer Ubisoft Quebec confirmed the game's name had been changed. So the timeline matches up between when the filing was made against Ubisoft and when the title was changed. Another outlet who covered this situation is a YouTube channel going by the name Hogue Law, and in that video, Hogue, in his view, believes that Ubisoft would probably have been able to defeat the opposition, but it would take time and money to do so without a cast iron guarantee of success, and that simply renaming the game to ensure a smoother launch was likely decided an easier option. So basically, Ubisoft had a strong case against Monster Energy's ridiculous claim that the title Gods and Monsters would cause confusion with Monster Energy drink products, but Ubisoft deemed the trouble of keeping the name Gods and Monsters not worthwhile, not worth the time and effort to go through this whole court process, so they just decided to settle and change the name. Especially with the game coming out so soon later this year on December of 2020, it would seem as though Ubisoft didn't want to risk anything with the game's launch, risk this case being dragged out beyond the game's launch and that potentially causing conflicts. Now, earlier this month, Eurogamer did inquire to the developers whether the name change was prompted by a legal issue, but Eurogamer was told that as far as the developer knew, Scott Phillips, the game director, it was a creative decision. He said, once we got to the end of 2019 and we were told we'd have more time on the game, the directors and entire team took some time and played the game, looked at what we had at that point on the narrative, visuals, gameplay, and reevaluated what we'd do with that extra time. The more time you get on something, you can really refine an idea and make it the best version of itself. And that's where, as we were developing this and iterating on the narrative, we realized it was really about Phoenix's journey with the gods, the immortals. We really wanted to focus on that, and that's where the title change comes from. Now, I'm not saying that the name Immortals Fenyx Rising wasn't on some level creatively influenced, but definitely a major push for that name change had to do with some legal proceedings, with some kind of court battle happening with Monster Energy. It'd be naive to say that that didn't play a major role in the decision to change the name. Though what the name was changed to, Immortals Fenyx Rising, that's probably what the developers came up with. And again, frankly, I think it's just inferior to Gods and Monsters. But alas, this is the situation we're in. And the reason I'm calling this out is because it does set a dangerous precedent where companies think that they own certain common words. So, for example, back in 2012, you may recall that Mojang was creating this game called Scrolls, and Bethesda tried to claim that they cannot use the title Scrolls because it would cause confusion with Bethesda's Elder Scrolls, which was just a ridiculous claim, of course. And both Bethesda and Mojang did eventually reach a settlement in which Mojang was allowed to use the word Scrolls for one game but couldn't use the word for sequels. But major companies thinking they can do this, that they can take a common word like monster or scroll and have their own way with that, yeah, that's just not right. A game's title, any work's title, is very important. How catchy a title is, how it rolls off the tongue. You know, that plays a big part in the game being able to spread, and I certainly don't like the idea of major companies laying claim to certain words and other developers, you know, big or small, not being able to use those words to express and reflect the nature of their game and what they want to convey with that title based on the experience we can expect from creative works of art. That's not to say that there aren't cases in which a work's title has gotten dangerously close to another and could cause potential confusion, but Gods and Monsters versus Monster Energy, it's certainly not one of those cases. While Monster Energy is associated with gaming quite a bit, with the product being sponsored to many gaming aspects, especially where esports is concerned, and with the brand even being prominently featured in games like Death Stranding, the fact remains that people are not going to confuse an energy drink with a video game, and the word monster is common enough that it shouldn't be restricted. And yeah, people aren't stupid. They're able to tell apart the difference between Monster the anime and Monster the movie, and Monsters Inc. the movie, and Gods and Monsters the video game, and Monster Energy the energy drink. These products are worlds apart enough and different enough in their aesthetic, in the logo design, and all of these different things that Monster Energy doesn't have a case here, and they would have probably lost if Ubisoft hadn't capitulated. But the pressure of the impending launch of what used to be known as Gods and Monsters and this legal battle potentially causing conflicts pressured Ubisoft into just changing the name, and Ubisoft decided that just giving up on the Gods and Monsters title would be easier and ultimately less painful. And it would seem as though they weren't so attached to the title Gods and Monsters as to seek some kind of legal battle and to drag this out. Now, Ubisoft is a big corporation with a big marketing budget. For Ubisoft, this stuff won't have a huge impact on their sales potential, but, you know, what happens when a big company does this to an indie developer who maybe don't have the funds to be able to take this to court or to be able to, you know, fight their legal battles in order to be able to retain their name, their title, which will not really cause any confusion with another company's product that has one word of the game's title in there. This is just something that I don't want normalized. The abuse of trademark complaints, of, you know, stating and claiming that there's trademark confusion and leading into trademark legal battles that aren't warranted. But yeah, with all said and done, I don't know what Monster Energy gained out of this other than some negative PR. You know, they could have just let Gods and Monsters slide, and it wouldn't have affected their sales in any way, shape, or form, I guarantee you. Anyway, this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. For those who might have been curious about why would they choose Immortals Fenyx Rising over the superior Gods and Monsters title, this played a major role. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Monster Energy's claims and Ubisoft's retort and the whole situation. Drop a comment, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.